Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, watching the stars drift past the viewing port. 3 years into humanity's first deep space mission, and they still had not found anything out there except empty planets and dead rocks. The ship hummed quietly around him as his crew ran their daily checks. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Chun from the communication station, "I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors." Morrison walked over to her station and looked at the display. 3 large objects were moving toward them at high speed. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built, and they were definitely not natural. "How long until they reach us?" Morrison asked. "About 20 minutes at their current speed," Chun replied. "Sir, I think these might be alien ships." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. After decades of searching, humanity had finally found proof they were not alone. He activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We have 3 unknown vessels approaching our position. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill." The bridge came alive with activity as his officers prepared for whatever was coming. Morrison had served in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Captain," Chun said, her voice tense, "I'm receiving a transmission from the lead ship. It's being translated automatically." "Put it on speakers," Morrison ordered. A cold mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Primitive vessel, you will cease all movement and prepare to be boarded. This system is now under the authority of the Galactic Council. Your species will submit to our rule or face destruction." Morrison stared at the communication panel. After all the dreams and hopes about meeting other intelligent life, this was what humanity got. Threats and demands from the first moment of contact. "Open a channel," Morrison said quietly. "Channel open, sir." Morrison took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We do not recognize your authority over our ships or our space." There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. "Your primitive technology suggests you are from a recently evolved species. You will comply with standard integration protocols. Prepare to surrender your vessel." Morrison looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had volunteered for a mission that might keep them away from Earth for 10 years. They had left their families behind to explore the unknown. Now some alien empire wanted them to surrender without even talking. "Like hell we will," Morrison muttered. Then, louder, "Unknown vessels, this is our final communication. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from this area before we consider you." "Hostile," the alien voice returned, sounding amused. "Your vessel appears to carry primitive fusion weapons. Our shields can withstand the output of a small star. You cannot harm us." Morrison smiled grimly. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They assumed human weapons were designed for space combat. They were wrong. "Lieutenant Ross," Morrison called to his weapons officer, "load mining charges in tubes 1 through 4. "Sir?" Ross looked confused. "Those are asteroid mining explosives, not ship weapons." "I know exactly what they are," Morrison replied. "The aliens are expecting energy weapons. Let's show them what kinetic impact can do." The 3 alien ships moved closer, clearly confident in their superiority. They were enormous vessels, each one 10 times larger than the Liberty. Their hulls gleamed with some kind of energy shielding that bent light around them. "Sensors show they're preparing boarding craft," reported Chun. "Fire when ready," Morrison ordered. The Liberty's mining charges shot out at incredible speed. The aliens had been right about one thing. Their energy shields could stop almost any directed energy weapon. But the mining charges were not energy weapons. They were dense metal projectiles, designed to crack open asteroids. The first charge punched through the lead alien ship's shields like they were not even there. The explosion tore a massive hole in the ship's side. The second and third charges hit the other ships before they could react. Direct hits on all 3 vessels, Ross reported, his voice filled with shock. Enemy ships are venting atmosphere and debris. Morrison watched as the alien ships struggled to maintain formation. Their perfect confidence had been shattered in seconds by weapons they had never encountered before. "Captain," Sean said urgently, "I'm receiving multiple transmissions from the damaged ships. They're calling for reinforcements and saying something about impossible weapons and primitive Deathworlders. Send a message to all 3 ships," Morrison ordered. "Tell them they have exactly 1 hour to leave this system. If we detect any other alien vessels in our space, we will consider it an act of war." As the alien ships limped away into hyperspace, Morrison activated the long-range communications array. Earth needed to know what had just happened. "This is Captain Morrison of the U.S. Liberty," he transmitted toward home. "We have made first contact with an alien civilization. They demanded our immediate surrender. We refused. I recommend immediate military preparation. We may have just started humanity's first interstellar war." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter received Morrison's message 6 hours later. She read it twice, then walked to her office window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien empire had just learned that humanity did not negotiate with threats. Carter picked up her secure communication device and dialed the Pentagon. "This is Admiral Carter. I need to speak with the Joint Chiefs immediately. We're going to war." Within hours, every human military installation received the same order: prepare for alien invasion. Humanity's age of innocence was over. The galaxy had just met Earth's children, and Earth's children did not back down from a fight. The message that would define humanity's place among the stars had been sent, not with words of peace or offers of friendship, but with mining charges and stubborn refusal to surrender. The aliens called Earth a death world. Now they would learn why that mattered. Ambassador Zethkar stood before the Galactic Council, his once perfect diplomatic robes torn and burned from his ship's emergency escape pods. The great chamber fell silent as representatives from 300 species watched him deliver his report. "The humans refused all diplomatic contact," Zethkar began, his voice shaking. "They gave us 10 minutes to withdraw before opening fire with weapons we have never seen before." Council Speaker Mordon leaned forward in his crystal throne. His species had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. No primitive civilization had ever resisted Council authority. "Explain these weapons," Mordon demanded. "Our intelligence reports show they have only basic fusion technology." Zethkar touched the burned scars on his face. "They fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. Our energy shields meant nothing. The projectiles went through them like they were empty space." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Energy shields had protected Council fleets for centuries. Every known species used energy weapons that could be stopped by proper shielding. "Impossible," declared war leader Kexter of the Draknari military. "Cast, no species develops kinetic weapons past the primitive stage. Energy weapons are far more efficient." "Tell that to my dead crew," Zethkar replied bitterly. 3 ships damaged, 47 personnel lost, all because we thought these humans would follow standard first contact procedures. On Earth, General. Ryan Brooks studied the intelligence reports flooding into the Pentagon. Every deep space sensor humanity had was now focused on tracking alien movements. What they found made his blood run cold. The Galactic Council controlled over 400 star systems. Their military forces numbered in the tens of thousands of ships. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity in most areas. By every reasonable calculation, Earth should have surrendered immediately. Dr. Helen Price entered the briefing room, carrying a thick file of xenobiology reports. As head of the newly formed Alien Studies Division, she had spent the last week analyzing every piece of data from Morrison's encounter. "General," she said, setting the files on the table, "I have some interesting findings about our new neighbors." Brooks gestured for her to continue. Around the table sat the Joint Chiefs of Staff, waiting for any information that might help them prepare for war. "The aliens come from what we would call garden worlds," Dr. Price explained. "Perfect temperatures. No dangerous weather. No large predators. Their evolution was completely different from ours." "What does that mean for us?" asked Admiral Carter, who had just arrived from the Orbital Defense Command. Dr. Price pulled out several photographs of the alien ships. "Look at their design philosophy. Everything is built for show and intimidation. Large, slow, heavily armored. They fight like they're putting on a parade." She pointed to the weapon scars on the alien hulls. "Our mining charges did more damage than they should have, because their ships are not designed for actual combat. They're designed to scare primitives into surrendering." Brooks studied the images carefully. "You're saying they've never fought a real war?" "Exactly," Dr. Price confirmed. "For 2,000 years, they've used overwhelming technological superiority to force compliance. No one has ever fought back effectively." Admiral Carter stood and walked to the star map covering one wall. "What about us? What advantages do we have?" Dr. Price smiled grimly. "We come from a death world, Admiral. Earth has been trying to kill us for millions of years. We evolved to fight, to adapt, to never give up. Every human carries the genetic memory of surviving ice ages, plagues, predators, and natural disasters." She pulled out another file. "Our weapons technology reflects this. We build things to work under pressure, to function when everything goes. Wrong. Their energy weapons are elegant and efficient. Our kinetic weapons are brutal and reliable." General Brooks nodded slowly. "They expect us to fight like they do. Energy weapons at long range, shields up, proper formations. But we don't fight fair," Admiral Carter added. "We fight to win." Meanwhile, in Council space, emergency sessions were being held on every major world. The news of human resistance had spread quickly through the communication networks. Prime. Councillor Velther of the Etherian Empire called for immediate military action. "This cannot be allowed to continue. If one primitive species can defy us, others will follow. We must crush them before rebellion spreads." But other voices urged caution. Senator Yelinara of the Peaceful Sylvan Confederation had been studying the human encounter data. "These beings are different," she warned the assembly. "They come from a world that has shaped them into natural warriors. Perhaps negotiation would be wiser than conflict." War leader Kexther slammed his fist on the podium. "Negotiation? They fired on council vessels without provocation. This is an act of war that demands response." The vote was close, but military. Action won by a narrow margin. The Council's Grand Fleet would be assembled and sent to the Sol system to enforce compliance. Back on Earth, President Kate Thompson addressed the United Nations Security Council. The emergency session had been called after Admiral Carter briefed world leaders on the alien threat. "Ladies and gentlemen," Thompson began, "we face a choice. We can surrender our freedom to an alien empire, or we can fight for the right to determine our own destiny." The Russian representative raised his hand. "Madam President, our military advisors say we cannot win against such overwhelming numbers." Thompson looked directly at him. "Our advisors also said humans could never survive in space, never land on the moon, never build permanent orbital stations. We have a history of doing impossible things." Dr. Price had been invited to address the assembly. She stood and activated a holographic display showing Earth and several alien garden worlds. "The difference between us and them," she explained to the gathered representatives, "is simple. They evolved in paradise. We evolved in hell. They have never had to fight for survival. We have never stopped fighting. She changed the display to show human military history. Every weapon we have ever built, every tactic we have ever developed, came from the need to survive on a world that wanted us dead. We are not just another species. We are apex predators from a planet that creates apex predators. The vote was unanimous. Earth would resist DOT as the meeting ended. Admiral Carter received word that long-range sensors had detected a massive alien fleet forming at the edge of Council space. 800 ships representing dozens of species, all heading toward Earth. Carter looked at the tactical display and smiled coldly. The aliens were about to learn why humans called their home planet a death world. More importantly, they were about to discover what happened when Deathworlders went to war. Fleet Admiral Danny Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the stars bend and twist as his strike force dropped out of hyperspace. 12 human warships had just completed their first defensive mission into alien territory. Kepler systems spread out before them, home to the largest Viridian military base outside their core worlds. Intelligence reports showed 47 enemy vessels clustered around the orbital stations, confident in their defensive positions. Admiral, reported Commander Amy Johnson from her tactical station. Enemy ships are moving to intercept. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Walsh nodded. Put it through. The familiar cold voice of Viridian command filled the bridge. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council space. Surrender immediately or face destruction. This system is under the protection of the Galactic Council. Walsh walked to the communication panel. His weathered face showed no emotion as he opened a channel to the entire enemy fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Danny Walsh of the Human Defense Force. You attacked our ships without provocation. You threatened our people with slavery. You have 5 minutes to evacuate the system before we consider everything here a legitimate military. Target. The response came quickly, filled with alien laughter. 12 primitive ships against 47 Council vessels? Your species has clearly not evolved intelligence along with aggression. Walsh turned to his weapons officer. Commander Davis, begin the demonstration. Captain Pete Davis commanded the heavy cruiser Hughes Storm. His ship had been specifically designed for this mission, carrying the latest human weapons technology. Unlike the mining charges that Morrison had used, these were purpose-built ship. Killers, storm to all ships, Davis transmitted. Weapons free. Show them what Earth engineering can do. The first human salvo lit up the darkness of space. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. Each round carried more energy than the aliens thought possible from such small ships. The Viridian defensive formation crumbled within minutes. Their energy shields, designed to stop the elegant energy weapons used by other Council species, provided no protection against solid matter moving at significant fractions of light speed. Enemy flagship taking critical damage, reported Lieutenant Ross from the sensor station. Their shields are completely useless against our guns. Walsh watched the tactical display with professional satisfaction. The aliens fought exactly as Dr. Price had predicted. Large formations, predictable movements, complete reliance on defensive systems that humans simply ignored. Admiral, Commander Johnson called out. The orbital base is targeting us with some kind of planet-killer weapon. Range and bearing? Walsh asked calmly. Bearing 27-Mark-4. The weapon appears to be charging some kind of massive energy beam. Walsh smiled grimly. Storm, you have a new target. Take out that station before they can fire. Captain Davis adjusted his ship's course, bringing the Storm's main guns to bear on the massive alien base. The structure was larger than anything humans had ever built in space, a testament to Council engineering capabilities. All guns fire for effect, Davis ordered. The The storm's kinetic cannon spoke as one. Solid rounds designed to crack asteroids punched through the station's outer hull like it was made of paper. Secondary explosions rippled along the structure as critical systems failed, but the aliens had one more surprise. As the base began to break apart, it fired its planet-killer weapon directly at the human fleet. "Incoming energy beam," shouted Ross. "Impact in 10 seconds. Walsh had prepared for this possibility. "All ships, emergency scatter pattern Delta. Give them smaller targets." The 12 human ships broke formation instantly, each one following a different evasive pattern. The massive energy beam swept through space where they had been moments before, finding nothing but empty vacuum. "That was their best shot," Walsh announced to his fleet. "Now let's finish this." The battle turned into a rout. Viridian ships tried to flee, but found themselves hunted down by human vessels that moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Earth's harsh gravity had produced beings who could handle acceleration that would kill most other species. Commander Amy Johnson monitored the enemy communications as their fleet disintegrated. "Sir, they're calling us demons and monsters. One ship captain is reporting that humans are impossible to fight because we ignore all the rules of civilized warfare." Walsh laughed. "Civilized warfare. There's no such thing. War is about winning, not following rules." Within 14 minutes, the battle was over. Of the 47 Viridian ships, only 12 managed to escape into hyperspace. The orbital base was nothing but expanding debris, Captain Davis reported from the storm. "Minimal damage across the fleet, Admiral. Some shield stress from near. Misses, but no serious injuries." Walsh nodded with satisfaction. The strike had achieved more than he had hoped. Not only had they destroyed a major alien military installation, but they had sent a message that would spread throughout Council space. "Signal the fleet," Walsh ordered. "Begin Phase 2. We're hitting their supply depot at Wolf 359 next." The news of the Kepler battle reached Earth within hours. President Thompson watched the tactical recordings with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "Incredible," muttered General Brooks. "They barely scratched our ships." Admiral Carter studied the damage. Assessments carefully. The aliens fight like they're afraid to get hurt. Every maneuver is defensive. Every formation is designed for protection rather than attack. Dr. Price had been analyzing intercepted alien communications. "They're calling us berserkers and madmen." One transmission described human tactics as impossible aggression patterns. "They cannot understand why we attack instead of defending." President Thompson turned to Admiral Carter. "How long before they mount a serious response?" "Intelligence suggests they're assembling a grand fleet." Carter replied, "Every major council species is contributing ships. We estimate 800 vessels minimum." 800 against our 50, Thompson mused. "Those are terrible odds." Admiral Carter smiled coldly. "For them, maybe. They're bringing parade. Ships to fight wolves." Admiral Walsh just proved that numbers don't matter if you're not willing to take risks. Meanwhile, in Council space, emergency sessions were being held on every major world. The destruction of the Kepler base had shattered the myth of Council invincibility. War leader Kexter pounded his fist on the command podium. "How did 12 primitive ships destroy 47 of our vessels? How did their weapons penetrate our defenses?" Ambassador Zeth Carr, still bearing scars from his encounter with humans, provided the answer. "Because they do not fight like civilized beings. They use brute force weapons and ignore all accepted rules of engagement." Prime Counselor Velther stood slowly. "Then we must respond with overwhelming force. Assemble the Grand Fleet, every ship, every species. We will crush these humans before their madness spreads to other worlds." The order went out across Council space. The largest military force in galactic History began assembling for the journey to Sol. 800 warships representing the combined might of dozens of civilizations. On Earth, humanity prepared for the fight of their lives. Every orbital platform bristled with weapons. The lunar shipyards worked around the clock, producing new vessels designed specifically for the coming battle. Admiral Carter established her command aboard the newly completed Hughes Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. As she looked out at the growing human fleet, she remembered Dr. Price's words about Deathworld evolution. The aliens were about to learn what happened when an entire species refused to surrender. They were about to discover why Earth's children had never learned the meaning of the word defeat. War leader Kexter stood on the command bridge of the massive Council flagship Eternal Glory, watching as 800 warships prepared for the jump to hyperspace. The largest military force in galactic history stretched out before him, representing 40 different species and 3,000 years of technological advancement. All fleet commanders report ready for departure, announced his communications officer. The humans will face the combined might of the entire Galactic Council. Kexter nodded with satisfaction. His own Dreknari battlecruisers formed the core of the fleet, supported by Viridian energy destroyers, Etherian quantum bombers, and dozens of other ship classes. No force this size had ever been defeated. Begin hyperspace jump, he ordered. Destination, Sol System. Today we end this human rebellion once and for all. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter watched the countdown timer on her command screen. Long range. Sensors had detected the massive alien fleet forming at the edge of Council space. Intelligence estimated their arrival in less than 6 hours. Fleet status report. Carter commanded from the bridge of the UE's Defiance. Captain Matt Brown, her tactical officer, consulted his displays. 57 ships ready for battle, Admiral. All orbital defense platforms are armed and operational. Lunar batteries are charged and targeted. Carter nodded grimly. 57 human ships against 800 alien vessels. By every military calculation ever made, Earth should surrender immediately. But Earth's children had never been good. At following mathematical predictions, Dr. Helen Price entered the command center carrying the latest intelligence analysis. Her team had been working around the clock to understand alien fleet tactics and weaknesses. Admiral, she reported, we've identified several critical flaws in their formation structure. They're organizing like a parade rather than a battle. Fleet. Carter studied the tactical projections Price had prepared. Explain. Their largest ships are in front for intimidation value, Price continued. Command vessels are clustered together for better coordination. They're prioritizing appearance over combat effectiveness. Colonel Rick Stone, head of military intelligence, added his own findings. Intercepted communications show they plan to demand our surrender before opening fire. Standard Council protocol is to offer terms before beginning bombardment. Carter smiled coldly. How civilized of them. What else? Their weapons are designed for planetary bombardment, Stone explained. Large, powerful energy beams meant to crack continents, but they're slow to target and fire. Built for destroying stationary targets, not fighting other ships. Carter activated the fleet communication system. All ship commanders, this is Admiral Carter. The enemy fleet will arrive in approximately 5 hours. Remember your training and trust your ships. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. Across the Sol System, humanity prepared for the fight of their lives. Every asteroid mining station had been converted into a weapons platform. Civilian ships evacuated to safe distance while military vessels took their positions. On the lunar surface, Major Bob Richards commanded the massive railgun batteries that could launch projectiles clear across the solar system. His weapons were originally built for deep space construction projects, but they would serve a different purpose today. All batteries report ready, Richards transmitted to Fleet Command. We can provide supporting fire anywhere in the system. The hours passed slowly as both sides prepared for battle. On Earth, President Kate Thompson addressed the world from the emergency command bunker beneath the Pentagon. "My fellow humans," she began, "today we face our greatest challenge. An alien empire that has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years demands our surrender. They expect us to bow down and accept their rule." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "But we are the children of Earth. We are survivors of ice ages and plagues. We are the descendants of explorers who crossed oceans in wooden ships and climbed mountains because they were there. We do not surrender." In space, the first signs of the approaching alien fleet appeared on long-range sensors. The Council's Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a wall of metal and energy that stretched across the outer solar system. War Leader Kexther activated his communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies. Primitive. "Humans, behold the power of the Galactic Council. 800 warships from 40 civilizations. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Carter's response echoed across space. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. You are trespassing in our system. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing, or we will consider you hostile invaders." Alien laughter filled the communication channels. 30 seconds? You face the greatest military force in galactic history with fewer than 60 ships. Surely, even primitive minds can understand basic mathematics. "Mathematics," Carter replied calmly, "assumes both sides are playing by the same rules. Humans don't play by anyone's rules but our own." The alien fleet began moving toward Earth in a massive formation designed to overwhelm any defense. Energy weapons charged as they approached, preparing for the bombardment that would force human surrender. But Admiral Carter had no intention of fighting a defensive battle. "All ships," she commanded, "implement Strategy 7. Hit them hard. Hit them fast. Make them chase ghosts." The human fleet scattered instantly, breaking into small groups that accelerated toward the alien formation at maximum speed. Instead of waiting to be attacked, they were launching their own assault. Not Captain Nina Ross commanded the heavy cruiser U.E.S. Guardian, leading a squadron of 6 ships directly into the heart of the alien fleet. "Remember," she told her pilots, "their shields stop energy weapons, but kinetic rounds go right through. Make every shot count." The first human attack struck the alien fleet like a lightning bolt. Small, fast ships appeared from multiple directions, firing kinetic projectiles that punched through energy shields and devastated alien hulls. War Leader Kexther watched in shock as his perfect formation began to collapse. "How are they moving? So fast? How are their weapons penetrating our defenses?" His tactical officer, a young Draknari named Vel Kar, studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. "Sir, their ships are pulling maneuvers that should kill their crews. No known species can survive that kind of acceleration." "And their weapons?" Kexther demanded. "Primitive kinetic projectiles, but fired at incredible velocities. Our energy. Shields were never designed to stop solid matter moving at those speeds." Kexther snarled in frustration. "All ships, break formation. Target the human vessels with everything we have." But the humans were already gone, vanishing back into the darkness of space before the alien weapons could lock onto them. They had struck like predators, inflicting maximum damage before disappearing. Admiral Carter monitored the battle from her flagship, watching as her carefully planned strategy unfolded. "Phase 1 complete," she announced. "Enemy formation disrupted. Begin Phase 2. The second wave of human attacks came from completely different directions. Ships emerged from behind asteroids and space debris, striking at alien vessels that were still trying to reorganize from the first assault. Major Richards opened fire from the lunar surface, sending railgun projectiles across the system at speeds that made them nearly impossible to intercept. Each shot was carefully calculated to arrive just as human ships broke off their attacks. The battle had become a nightmare for the alien fleet. They faced an enemy that refused to fight by civilized rules, that struck without warning and disappeared. Before retaliation was possible, war leader Kexther realized with growing horror that his overwhelming numerical advantage meant nothing if he could not bring his weapons to bear on targets that would not stay still long enough to be hit. The humans were teaching the Galactic Council a lesson that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Superior technology and overwhelming numbers meant nothing against opponents who refused to be intimidated and fought with the desperate creativity of true survivors. War leader Kexther stared at his tactical display in growing panic. In 3 hours of battle, his grand fleet of 800 ships had been reduced to fewer than 400. The humans continued their hit-and-run attacks, appearing from nowhere to strike at his vessels before vanishing again into the darkness. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving retreat requests from 15 different ship commanders. The Etherian quantum bombers are requesting permission to withdraw to safe distance." Kexther slammed his fist on the command console. "No retreats. We outnumber them 8-1. How can primitive Deathworlders be defeating the combined fleets of the galaxy?" On the bridge of the U-East Defiance, Admiral Carter watched her tactical display with cold satisfaction. The alien fleet was beginning to break apart as individual ship commanders lost their nerve. Exactly as she had planned. "Enemy formation is collapsing," reported Captain Brown. "Multiple ships are trying to disengage from the battle." Carter nodded. "Signal all squadrons. Begin final phase. Target their command ships." Captain Pete Davis received the order aboard the UES Storm. His heavy cruiser had been specifically hunting the largest alien vessels, using their size against them. Big ships made easy targets for kinetic weapons. "All batteries, target the enemy flagship," Davis commanded. "Full power to the railguns." The Storm's main weapons spoke as one, sending dense metal projectiles screaming across space at incredible velocity. The Eternal Glory's energy shields flared and died as solid matter punched through them like they were made of glass. Kexther felt his ship shake as the human projectiles tore through the hull. "Damage report," he shouted over the alarm klaxons. "Critical hits to engine section and main weapons array," his tactical officer replied. "Hull breach on decks 7-12. We're venting atmosphere." Kexther made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. If he could not defeat the human fleet in open combat, he would destroy their planet and force their surrender. "All ships," he broadcast on the emergency command frequency, "target the human homeworld. Prepare planet killer weapons. If we cannot have victory, we will have vengeance." The order spread through what remained of the alien fleet. Massive energy weapons began charging, each one capable of cracking a planet's crust. 20 different ships prepared to fire on Earth simultaneously. Admiral Carter detected the energy buildup immediately. "All ships, emergency intercept. They're targeting Earth directly." Captain Nina Ross commanded the UES Guardian, humanity's newest heavy cruiser equipped with experimental defensive technology. Her ship was the closest to the alien formation when the planet killer weapons began their final charge sequence. "Guardian to Fleet Command," Ross transmitted calmly. "I can intercept the enemy fire, but it will require getting between their weapons and Earth." Carter understood immediately. The Guardian would have to absorb energy meant to destroy an entire planet. "Captain Ross, that's a suicide mission." "Maybe," Ross replied. "But that's what we signed up for when we joined the Defense Force. Protecting Earth is our job. The Guardian accelerated toward the alien fleet at maximum burn, positioning itself directly between the enemy weapons and humanity's homeworld. Ross activated her ship's experimental shield systems, technology that had never been tested under combat conditions. "All crew to emergency stations," she announced over the ship's intercom. "We're about to find out if our engineers are as good as they think they are." The alien planet killer weapons fired as one, sending a concentrated beam of energy capable of shattering continents across the solar system. The beam struck the Guardian's shields with the force of a small star. For a moment that seemed to last forever, the small human ship held against impossible odds. The Guardian's shields flared brighter than the sun as they absorbed and dispersed energy that should have vaporized the vessel instantly. Shield generators at maximum output, reported the Guardian's chief engineer. Hull temperature rising beyond safe limits. "We can't hold this for long." Captain Ross watched her ship's systems overload one by one, but the deadly beam was weakening. The Guardian's sacrifice was working. Earth remained safe behind them. "Ross to Fleet Command," she transmitted as her ship began to break apart. "Enemy. Planet killer neutralized. Earth is secure. It's been an honor serving with you all." The Guardian exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. But Captain Ross and her crew had accomplished their mission. The alien superweapon had been stopped. Admiral Carter felt tears in her eyes as she watched the Guardian sacrifice. "All ships, avenge the Guardian. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten our home." The remaining human fleet fell on the alien vessels with unprecedented fury. Ships named after Earth's great cities and heroes struck at the invaders with weapons, forged in the fires of humanity's industrial might. War leader Kexter watched his fleet disintegrate around him. The humans fought like nothing he had ever seen, with a combination of tactical brilliance and pure rage that overwhelmed every defensive measure. "Sir," his communications officer called out desperately, "we're receiving surrender requests from over half our remaining ships. The fleet is breaking apart." Kexter stared at the tactical display, showing fewer than 200 alien ships. Still fighting. In 6 hours, the mightiest military force in galactic history had been shattered by beings the Council had dismissed as primitives. "Signal general retreat," he ordered quietly. "All ships withdraw to hyperspace immediately." The surviving alien vessels fled the Sol system in complete disorder, leaving behind wreckage and the shattered remains of their reputation. The Galactic Council's myth of invincibility had died in the space around Earth. Admiral Carter watched the enemy retreat with grim satisfaction. "Fleet status report," she commanded. 41 ships remaining operational," Captain Brown replied. "Heavy damage across the fleet, but we held the system." On Earth, President Thompson addressed the chums. "World once again." The battle had been broadcast live to every human settlement in the solar system. "My fellow humans," she began, "today we have proven that freedom is worth any price. We have shown the galaxy that Earth's children do not bow to tyrants." News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than the retreating Council ships. On worlds that had submitted to alien rule centuries ago, beings looked up at the stars and remembered what freedom meant. The first rebellion began on Kepler Prime, where human mining equipment had been left behind after the earlier battle. Local inhabitants used human weapons to drive off their Council overseers. On the crystal worlds of the Zephyrite Confederacy, peaceful beings who had never known war began asking questions about their place in the galactic order god in the depths of space. Merchant ships carried more than cargo. They carried the story of how 57 human vessels had defeated 800 Council warships through superior tactics and unbreakable will. War leader Kexter returned to Council space in disgrace, bearing news that would reshape galactic politics forever. The age of Council dominance was ending. Admiral Carter concluded her battle report with words that would echo through history. The enemy has learned that Deathworlders don't negotiate with tyrants. We deploy war fleets, and we win. Earth had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not with words of peace, but with the thunder of kinetic weapons and the sacrifice of heroes. The galaxy would never be the same.